All right, let's cut to the chase. And apologies for my voice. I am still recovering from a nasty cold. But I wanted to talk about the God of War post as well as the new Lanterns trailer because I noticed some similarities between both of these shows that are coming out. But before I get into that, spoilers for the God of War games as well as the Green Lantern comics. So starting off with God of War, I think there is something that really concerned me, and that's the fact that we're jumping right ahead into all the Norse stuff. I think it's a missed opportunity in not trying to focus on Kratos when he's dealing with all the Greek gods and just all of his history, to jump straight into him being a father. And it comes across like you're trying to chase the current popularity of the recent games installments rather than building characters in a story that will last beyond the trend. Imagine properly setting this up. First season, we have Kratos losing his daughter and his wife and probably even becoming the God of War by the end of season 1. Season 2, you can focus more on him actually taking out all the rest of the Greek gods. And if you want, you can have him kill Zeus at the end of season 2 or save that for season 3. And the reason why I mention all of this is because without the proper foundation for God of War, I think that certain emotional beats will not hit as hard without this foundation. And that is what is going to be very detrimental to this show, because I think if you rush through all of it, you miss out on Kratos being a very emotionally layered character. And this actually goes into my other issue, which is with the Lanterns trailer. But before I get into that, I do want to give some praises to the show. For one, I think the casting is awesome. I really like Aaron Pierre from Rebel Ridge. That was one of my favorite films of 2024. And as for Kyle Chandler, I do think he's a great actor, especially watching Friday Night Lights. He was probably the best aspect of that. Everything else was very overly dramatic. But another thing that I really liked about the trailer that we saw in the Lanterns show was it gave me Taylor Sheridan vibes, which is probably why I got so excited for it. I mean, if you were just to pitch this show to me as a cop show with Kyle Chandler and Aaron Pierre, I would be on board. You don't even need to have the Green Lanterns be a part of it. But you can still use this in a superhero pseudo show. I just don't necessarily think that Lanterns is the right call for this. If anything, I think there's a DC character that works better for this format, and I'm going to reveal that at the end of this video. Now, with that all out of the way, let's get into it. So, obviously, Green Lanterns, I should say Lanterns, because Green Lantern sounded stupid, a quote from the showrunner.
It's called Lanterns because we all agreed that the green was stupid. So,
right.
Sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself here. Let's get down with issue 1. So I think that it's falling into the same trap as what I believe God of War is falling into, which is trying to rush through certain storylines. We are so excited to share what if Hal Jordan were to be corrupted by Parallax storyline, or if Hal Jordan should die, and that means that you need someone to replace him. That's what it kind of comes across as. And for those who don't know, the storyline in which Hal Jordan becomes Parallax was a story that began in, I believe, 1994, and it didn't end until 2004. And this was a great way of introducing Kyle Rayner, and I think they're trying to do that with Jon Stewart replacing the Kyle Rayner role. And even in the comics, Hal was pretty old when we got around to the Parallax storyline, so it's not that big of a surprise. But if I had to place my bets, I still think that Hal Jordan might die at the end of the season. I just feel like that's perfectly lined up. You have him as this mentor figure, and then a passing of the torch kind of moment happens. But here's the problem with all of this, that everything that I just stated, without the proper foundation, I think that we don't actually get the right payoffs with either one of these picks. Even what I'm about to suggest, some people might say is a bit too fast-paced, but I do want a proper foundation of just setting up Hal Jordan as a character, because we haven't seen him outside of that cruddy Ryan Reynolds film on the big screen in a live-action adaptation. So this is all I'm asking for. Let's start season 1. Let's get to see Hal Jordan in his prime in the 80s or 90s or whenever he was around in Gunn's universe. And slowly but surely, we sow the seeds of him either turning evil, or we get to understand a little bit more about this cocky son of a gun. And then season 2 comes around and it's a time jump. And this is probably where I lost a couple of you, but just stick with me. If you don't want to focus so much on Hal Jordan when he's young, then I can only think about doing a time jump. And I don't necessarily hate this idea, because you're still getting to see a little bit of Hal Jordan when he was young, and we segue into just him connecting with Jon Stewart. And we see a little bit of similarities between the young Hal Jordan that we saw in season 1 and the young Jon Stewart that we see here. I think that that's a very interesting idea. And what's great is then you get to the payoff of either Hal Jordan as Parallax, and if you go that route, then we have set that up in season 1, and you see a little bit more of that in season 2, and this conflict starts arising between him and Jon, culminating in Hal just becoming a total villain by the end. And now you are looking towards Jon's perspective and you see how devastated he is, which is perfect in setting up the constant confrontations that both of these characters are going to have in the future. But what's great for the audience is we get to look back at where Hal started from and how much he fell from grace. I think that that is something that I at least would appreciate. And the best part about this is it works even for the Hal storyline where he ends up dying, because when the audience sees this, they're not just being like, well, of course he was going to die. It's season 1. The actor is old, so I'm not that surprised. Instead, you hopefully are somewhat connected with this character from season 1 so that when this payoff happens, it's not like it's in vain or comes across as gimmicky. It's like, that was a great character. His death actually mattered. And you know what? I'm still excited to see what happens to Jon Stewart. What does he take from this experience? And you know what? I'm then hooked for the next season. Or if they want to make Lanterns into a movie, I'm on board for that. I'm obviously just speculating here, and I hope the best for both of these shows. I am just a little bit more worried about Lanterns, because I'm just getting this almost disrespectful vibe. You know, I hope I'm wrong, but going based off of what the trailer is showing, it comes across as though they don't really care that much about these characters. What they really want to do is just tell their own story and use this as a vessel for it. So that kind of worries me. But what my friend suggested, I kind of agree with him. This feels more like a Martian Manhunter show and probably works better because if you read the comics, the entire detective aspect of the character, I think, works more in line with this whole dark and gritty nature. You can still make this TVMA. And the best part is you will still have aliens as well as sci-fi elements. But I digress. Those are my thoughts. And as always, watch, connect, and grow.